One of the big stories, obviously, in capital markets over the last really a couple of months has just been the issuance of investment grade debt by technology companies associated with their AI capital spending plans. The most recent deal was Amazon coming with a big deal, $25 billion. That's issuing more than 60 billion across currencies, just recently. Rob Schiffman, he's been on fire on this stuff, way ahead of it. Senior tech credit analyst for Bloomberg Intelligence. Amazon, just talk to us. That's the most recent deal, Rob. Just give us a sense of how that was received in the marketplace and how the market's thinking about some of these tech players that have really become big issuers.
Sure. If you read Bloomberg News, it reads like it was received terribly. And quite frankly, I don't think that was the case. When they've actually issued almost $100 billion of debt this year across currencies. When you issue that much paper, every time you do a deal, you need to pay a little bit more. So new issue concessions on this were higher than traditionally. That being said, they were probably about 10 or 15 beeps higher. And when you're talking about a company that's raising 30-year money at spreads over treasuries at 110 basis points, quite frankly, it's just a rounding error. The ability to raise $25 billion in a couple of hours, I don't care if it's oversubscribed by 2 times or 5 times. Amazon could raise as much money as they want, whenever they want. They just might have to pay a little bit more.
So that paying a little bit more, you're attributing it to the fact that they've already raised quite a bit of money. And I think you're referring to the big bond sale they did in Canada, the Loonie offering last month. Or is it that maybe sentiment has turned a little bit? I think that's what we're trying to get at.
Yeah, no, I don't think sentiment has turned. Actually, doing alternative currencies, non-dollar currencies, is actually good from a US dollar trading perspective, because for every dollar that they issue that is in alternative currencies, they don't have to do in US dollars. What starts to happen is large money managers just get full on the name. Amazon has about $200 billion of debt outstanding now, and these are large positions. So to incentivize people to take on more, you just have to pay a little bit more. But what I'm saying is the overall cost of borrowing for them from a spread perspective is still somewhat tiny. So yes, sentiment is getting a little bit weaker. That happens when you have record issuance, and it's likely to continue. Also, Amazon's not ruling out they're going to be back in the markets later this year. That said, if they did an Alphabet-style equity deal and raised $75–85 billion of equity next month, I think you're going to see spreads tighter. And in fact, with all this Middle East news, it's actually somewhat mildly positive for credit spreads. What happens is yields end up going higher, so the bid from the buy side, particularly out the curve, goes up. You can basically buy the same names at the same or tighter spreads, but higher yields. So you're seeing some of that today. So Amazon is tighter today, and even names like SpaceX are trading tighter today. So this concept that the large hyperscalers are not going to be able to raise as much money as we say that they're going to need, I think that's just sort of a misnomer, because it cost them a little bit more this time than it did last time.
You mentioned SpaceX, and Tom follows those bonds. Tom Keene follows those bonds, and he's been noting that they've been trading lower relative. Talk to us about how they've been trading and why.
Well, it's the nomenclature is important. So lowers, are you talking about spreads or are you talking about price, right? Because it's the opposite. Right. So, spreads on the break widen 20 to 25 basis points. And now they've settled in, a nickel or so tighter. So they're in a much more narrow trading range. Again, I think that these basis point moves are reasonably small, and they're not telling a story that I think we see across news, which is news knows bad news sells, and they put out the sky is falling. And quite frankly, it just isn't. There's a deep bid for SpaceX bonds, there's a bid for Oracle bonds, and there's a bid for these AA hyperscaler bonds. It's just at a little bit of an incremental cost over what historically they had paid. And it makes sense. Part of the SpaceX issue is that they're going to come back, and they're going to come back again and again and again. And people just need to position that, if you're a triple B name, where should you be trading? Well, they're trading inside of where Oracle is. So all of a sudden, I think Oracle levels, which are, 30, 40 wider, create a backstop where I think SpaceX might be going.
All right, good stuff.
Robert Schiffman, he is the guy to go to here on all things tech credit. He's our senior tech credit analyst at Bloomberg Intelligence, talking to us about the Amazon bond offering, $25 billion in credit. Demand